Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling General Ledger Lesson 25. And Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome to this lesson in our Oracle Financials Functional Training Series. Today's topic, we are going to look at translation, and we're going to look at the things that we need to set up before we do translation, and then we are going to do our own translation on the system. So just as a refresher, we already know what the process of translation or balances level reporting currencies involves. It means that at the end of the month, we convert our balances, which are stored in our primary ledger in functional currency. We convert them to a reporting currency of our choice through the process of translation. And what this does is that it enables us to create financial reports both in the functional currency and in the foreign currency or the reporting currency. So this picture is basically a representation of that process, where journals are entered either in the functional currency or in foreign currency, and then there's conversion for the foreign currency journals. They're posted, and the balances are updated, and then translation is done at the end of the period. So we have already seen what translation involves. Now, in order to carry out translation, there are a couple of things that we need to do, and we are going to split up these things into two groups. The first group is the things that we need to do as a one-time setup, and the second group is what we need to do as every period, or the monthly setup, if the period that we're using is the month. So for the one-time setup, what we need to do is we need to create a CTA account, the cumulative translation adjustment account, which we had talked about in our previous lessons, and we saw what the purpose of that account is, just because of the differentials that come up when the different types of accounts are translated using different exchange rates. We then need to create a period average rate type, and then we also need to create a period end rate type. So the period average rate type will be used to translate the balances in the income statement accounts, right? The revenue and expenses accounts, and the period end rate we said is used to convert the balance sheet accounts, the assets and the liabilities. So in our case, for the period end rate, we are going to use the Mascani corporate rate type that we already created earlier, and then we are going to draw the period end rate from that rate type. So the period end rate is going to be the exchange rate effective on the last day of the period. Okay. So if it is February, it's going to be the 28th, or if it's April, it's going to be the 30th. The period average rate type, we already know what that is. So for this, we are going to create a new rate type because we don't have one. So now, after we have created the CTA account, the period average rate, and the period end rate, we need to assign all these three things to the ledger. Okay, so we'll go to our accounting setup screen, and there's a place where we are going to specify each of these three things, so that the system can know that when translation is going on. This is where the period end rate is going to be drawn. This is where the period average rate type is going to be drawn, and this is the CTA account where the those differentials are going to be posted. So that is the one-time setup part. So once we do this, we don't need to do it again for our next translations. Okay. So the only thing we need to do if we need to do translation in the next period or another time is make sure that the rates are updated. Right. We make sure that the rates are current and they're the ones that are needed in order to arrive at the correct numbers once translation is done. So let's head on over to Oracle. Okay. Oracle. Let me log out and log in using the correct username. All right, so let's start first by creating this CTA account, okay? So we're going to go to Setup, Financials, Key, right here. The value set, okay. The screen is acting up, I don't know why. Let me close this. Okay, so the value set that we want is Mascani group account. Okay. So remember we said that the CTA account is a balance sheet account. So we're going to keep it in the 1000 series. So we can just use 1900. Okay. So change this to assets for account type. Okay. And we can save our work. Okay, so we have created the CTA account. What's the next thing we need to do? We need to create the period average rate type. Okay. So the navigation for that is set up, then currencies, then rates, then types. So we need to create a, a new rate type. We can call it Maskani average. You can call it Maskani period average rate. Okay. So we have created the container. We still need to go and enter the actual exchange rates for this rate type, all right? But that's it. So let me just go back there and query. So we already have Maskani corporate, and now we are going to use this for our period end rate. So we don't need to create another rate type. Okay. So that's just what I wanted to show you, that we already have this, and we are going to use it for the period end rate. Okay. So we have these three. So what we need to do now is to go and assign these three items to our ledger, right? So this is the navigation, setup financials, accounting, manager accounting setups. Remember this page, this is where we were doing our ledger setup. So search for our ledger. There it is. Update accounting options. So let's go. Here you can see Maskani Group US Ledger. Select this button here, update. So if you go to page 2 by clicking next, then and scroll down here, you will see these fields under the currency translation options header, right? And so here you can enter the default period end rate type and the default period average rate type, and you can also enter the cumulative translation adjustment account. All right. So for the period end, we are going to use Maskani corporate. Maskani corporate, select. Okay. For the period average, we're going to use Maskani average. For the cumulative, let's use Maskani developers as for the company. For the account, I believe should be 1900 right there, CTA account. Select. And let's use the default for these other segments. So it should be 00. don't know. Okay, select. No, I need to search and select. Once I enter. Okay, so that's good. Select, search, hold on, create. So that's the combination. And then select that. So we have the default period end rate and the average rate and the CTA account all have been assigned to the ledger. So you can finish. Now, if you look at this page down here, you can see the option of reporting currencies. Okay, it says create reporting currencies and update currency conversion and journal processing options. So if you select this update here, you will see that there's nothing listed under here. Okay, so take a note of that. We're going to come back to this page once we do our translation, and we will see what will have changed. Okay. All right. So let's go back to our slides. So we have done the one-time setup. We have completed the one-time setup. So in order to do translation, what do we need to do? We need to enter rates for each of the three types of rates. And then now we can be able to do translation. All right. So how do we enter rates? So setup, currencies, rates, daily. First of all, I want to see what period is open. So we have July open and August is future enterable. So I believe we have we have some activity for July. So let's see whether we have exchange rates there for the whole month of July before we decide whether we are going to open a new period. So let's go back to setup, currencies, rates, daily. See what we have for Mascani. So we had entered some rates for July, and I believe we have rates for the whole of July. So we are just going to use these rates that we had entered for July. So you can see from here we have from the 1st of July all the way to the 31st. So once we do translation and we do it for the period of July, the effective period end rate will be this one here. And by the way, for our translation, we are doing it from from US dollars to Kenya shillings. Okay, so this is going to be our effective rate, period end rate for this period of July. The exchange rate on the last day of that period. Okay, so now let's enter period average rate from US dollars to Kenya shillings. Okay, we said for the period average rate, we enter just one exchange rate effective on the last day of the period. So we are doing this for the month of July. So the effective date is going to be the 31st of July. Okay, so 31st July 2018, and the rate type that we want to do this is Mascani average. Okay, and we can do an exchange rate of 103. Okay, and automatically the system calculates the inverse from Kenya shillings to US dollars. So let's save that. So we have our period average and period end rate. So of course, you have noted we have not created a historical rate type. That's because we already have a window here where we can go and enter the historical rates. I believe I had mentioned that we are not going to use the historical rates, but scratch that. Let's just go ahead and enter this so that also you can see what this window looks like. So this is the window where you enter your historical rates, and here you can see functional currency, and the currency to which we are doing translation is Kenya shilling. So we enter that there. Now for this window, you have to select the period for which you're doing translation, and we are doing this for July 2018. Okay, and then now you enter the account. Historical rates, remember, are used to translate what? The ownership account, the equity account. So that is what you're going to enter here. So should be account the retained earnings. Let's use the default for all the other fields, the other segments. Okay. So here you have two fields. You have the rate and the credit amount. So what do this mean? The rate is obvious. So this here you can enter the exchange rate using which the system will translate the balances in this account into your target currency. So here you can enter the number of the exchange rate, or the other option is you can enter a hard-coded amount here, like 1,000 Kenya shillings or 10,000 Kenya shillings. And what does that mean? It means that regardless of what the balance is in your primary ledger, right, for this account, that amount will be translated into the amount you enter here. So if you have maybe 1,000 here, even if you have like 2,000 US dollars in your as the balance in this account, that amount will be translated to 1,000 Kenya shillings. Okay, so we're not going to use that. We're going to use a rate. So let's use 105, which I believe is also the period end rate, but there's no relation. We can also do this and assign by ranges. Let me not say no first. Okay, let me save. So what the same thing, you enter the period, you enter the rate or amount, and then here you can enter the range of accounts that you want to be translated. Okay, so let's close that. That's saved. You can close this window. So we have done the one-time setup, and we have done the monthly setup for the period of July, which means we are ready to do translation for the period of July. Okay, and this is the navigation. So you go to currency, then translation, and let's head over to Oracle and do that. So currency, then translation. So this is the window, the screen that comes up when you follow that navigation. The ledger for which you are doing this translation is Maskani. We only have access to this one ledger for now through our responsibility. Down here, you have the choice to pick translation, the balancing segment for which you're going to do translation. In other words, in our case, that would be like asking which company we want to do translation for, whether it's Maskani developers or property managers. I doubt we have many or any transactions for our company number 2. So even if we put specific value here and enter 001, or we just did for all of them, there wouldn't be a big difference. Okay. Here you have the balance types for which you want to do the translation. So you can actually translate your budgets, or you can translate your actual balances. You want to do actual. And what is the target currency? So here, the target currency will be USD. Sorry, the target currency should be Kenya shillings. That's the currency for which we are doing translation. The reporting currency here is the name of the ledger that will be created once we do translation. So the name is the same as your primary ledger, but what's the difference? If you scroll to the end, you will see that it has Kenya shillings in brackets, all right? To show that this ledger, the balances are in Kenya shillings. And then now we have to select the period for which we want to do translation, and that is the period July 2018. These options are grayed out because we don't have anything to do with budgets. We are doing actual balances. And once we've done that, we can go ahead and select translate, and we have an ID here. So we can close the screen, go to requests, and hopefully our translation will go on without, so it was completed without any issues. All right. So from what we know about translation, what we expect that the balances from our primary ledger for the period of July 2018 have been converted to Kenya shillings, which is the reporting currency of interest. That also means that now we have a new ledger, a reporting currency ledger, and we can do inquiries against this ledger to see balances in Kenya shillings. Okay, and it also means now that we can generate financial reports in Kenya shillings and in the functional currency. So let's just go back to the slides. So now we have done this. So we have balances in Kenya shillings, and which means we can run financial reports and inquiries in Kenya shillings. Before we could only do that in US dollars. But now that we have done translation, now we can do inquiries in Kenya shillings. So before we do that, let's close this window and let's go back to the accounting setup screen. Let's go here. Let's see whether we have anything under reporting currencies. So now you see, before when we came to this page, there was nothing here. But now you can see we have a reporting currency ledger called Maskani Group US ledger in Kenya shillings. And you can see that the currency conversion level is at the balances level, right? So we know translation is the same as balance level reporting currencies. So that is what has changed, and we didn't have to do anything manually on this page, as we are going to see when we are doing the sub-ledger and the journals level reporting currencies, okay? So this was created automatically once we did translation. So it's just complete there. That's what I wanted to show you. Now, we said the reporting currency ledger allows us to do inquiries and reports in foreign currency, okay? So when you go to inquiries, then account, what will you notice first? When you come here to ledger, now you have two options in this list. Before you only had one, right? So now you have two options, the reporting currency and the primary ledger. So if you want to do inquiries in Kenya shillings, you select this. So for example, let's first do in the primary, in the functional currency, okay? So for July, let's click OK for all accounts. And let's see the balances in this second account here. There's a cash account for industrial plants. So show balance. Okay, we don't have any activity in this account for July. No, not for this one either. Okay, A lot of these have zero activity for July. But anyway, so when we select that, you can see a PTD balance and YTD balance. Let's see what happens when we look for this, when you do the inquiry in the reporting currency. So you see the currency here is Kenya shillings, and the YTD balance has been translated to Kenya shillings, right? Which is this is the amount, the YTD amount. So if we had some activity for this period, we would have also seen the PTD balance in Kenya shillings. But you can see the YTD balance has also been translated into Kenya shillings. So that's how translation works. As far as financial statements, financial reports are concerned, we usually do that using the FSG tool, Financial Statements Generator tool, and it's a topic we are going to look at very soon. And we are going to see how to generate financial reports. But as far as inquiries are concerned, we have successfully managed to do translation, and which means now you should be able to do a translation yourself too. Okay, so that's it for the topic of translation. And Bob, unless you have something to add, I think that's a good place to end our lesson.
I think we are good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.